Welcome back to the Student River Podcast. I am your host, Luke Stokes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today, we're going to be talking about part 2 on our series on branding. If you recall, last episode, we talked about kind of the calling element, right? We were talking about calling, culture, and communication. And we talked about calling, and we talked about creating that vision and that mission and those core values that really drive your organization. I'll review that real quick. Today, we're going to be talking about creating a movement, though. Today, we're going to be talking about where the intangibles, right, some of those more higher level ideals really meet with what does this actually look like in practicality. Okay, so we're going to talking about some of the culture piece, some of the communication piece, but really this is going to be bringing it down to ground level and where we start to execute. So I am going to be more intentional, just like I was last week, with some notes. I'm going to be making sure that I stay on task. Again, this is a topic that's pretty nuanced, and I want to make sure that I don't leave anything out, really. So quick review. Last week, we talked about the calling piece. Why does your brand matter? Showing up is just not good enough anymore. You can't just exist and think that you're going to beat out your competition. There's way too much competition. Your industry is being commoditized, meaning people are more and more inclined, if all things being the same, to make their decision on price. And that's just not how you want to compete. You want to be able to have a brand that can even charge more and still attracts the people that you want to attract. We're going to be we also talked about, we covered that. Yeah. Showing up is not good enough. Differentiation, right? More competition than ever. You don't want to just be noise, and your industry is being commoditized. Those were the 3 points. It's right here on my paper. So sorry to repeat myself. So what a brand is not, right? We also talked about how a brand is not a logo. It's not a style guide. It's not even your unique positioning. It's not, we have a bigger facility. We have more class options. We have better coaches. Those may drive some level of interest, but ultimately, that's not what's going to make up a brand. A brand is a community. It's a feeling. It's an emotion. So what is a brand? A brand is a unique perspective. A brand is authority, an emotional connection, and a fictional character, which I didn't mention last time around. Somehow I missed that when I reviewed it. And we're not actually going to get into that today. That's going to be next week, where we're going to talk about how we define the voice of the brand. And we do that through creating a character. And not like a character like a little tiny person that's going to, represent, a cartoon that's going to represent, but more like the voice, the persona of your culture, and how that's represented. So we'll talk about that next time. Today, we're going to be talking more about authority. But as we look back in review here, we talked about 3 pieces last week. We talked about vision, meaning we believe this. What do you believe to be true about the universe and your company's position in it? So we believe this. Mission, which is why we must do this. Right? This is the actual execution, what the timeline is, what we're actually going to go out and accomplish. And then we talked about values, which is why we act like this. So we talked about all those things. And really, the question that we're trying to answer at this level is, why do we exist? Okay? So if you haven't listened to last week's episode, I'd actually hold off on listening to this episode, because this builds on what we did last week. And if you haven't done the groundwork to define your vision, your mission, and your values that we outlined last week, this really isn't going to do you that much good to take this next step. So stop this recording, stop the video, go back, watch that first, go through, do some of that homework, and then come and join us on this episode, because we're going to dive into authority. We're going to dive into how do you take your vision, your mission, your values, and now create an environment that comes from a position of authority that people want to be a part of and they want to follow. So that's what we're going to dive into. I don't think this episode's going to be that long, but this episode is a critical piece in this. And so I didn't want to tie it into something else. I'm going to create a standalone episode on this one piece here, but I don't expect it to be the hour that our last episode was. All right, so let's talk about starting a movement. When a brand amplifies its authority, it creates a movement. So our goal here, remember we talked about a brand is authority. You must dominate mind share. So if we're going to have authority, how do we amplify it? How do we get that word out? How do we make sure that people know that we have this authority that we want them to come under, that we want them to follow? So there's 5 ways that you can do this. You're not going to do all 5 likely. You're probably going to just pick a couple of them. So whatever is natural to you, and I'm going to give you examples in each step here on how that's applicable. Some I'm going to give direct examples on how that's applicable to your industry of kids activity centers, and some I'm going to give examples in other industries because it's a little easier to see how it applies. And what I want you to do is start looking at your industry, your business, what you're trying to create, your brand, through this lens, through this this authority amplifier mechanism, if you will, and find the one that feels comfortable, feels natural, and feels like, yes, that's a direct correlation to what we do. And so maybe you'll agree with me when I point out a couple that I'm easily able to connect to the Kids Activity Center. But I don't want you to feel like you have to follow me on those. Like you can create your own path in this. This is your brand that you're creating. I'm not creating your brand. You're creating your brand. And so just find your way through all of this. All right. So the first way that you can amplify your brand, when a brand successfully amplifies their brand, one of the things that they do is they have a plan. This is about accomplishing an objective, okay? So in this particular piece, the piece that we're asking is, do you have a let me try that again. The piece that we're asking in this is, do you have a step-by-step plan for success for your customers and your clients? Okay, so how does this apply? What are you looking for to be able to grab this one and say, yes, we have a step-by-step plan? I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Let's take landscaping for example. And I know it's a little bit abstract, but let's take landscaping. Okay, you have the option of choosing, let's just say 2, 3, 4, or 5, doesn't matter, number of companies that could manage your landscaping for your business or for your house, and that's going to include, all of the, weeding the flower beds. That's going to include, mowing the lawns. That's also going to include, fertilizing and adding, weed killers and stuff to your lawn to make it green. So you're trying to evaluate, gosh, which of these do I choose, right? Do I choose this guy over here? He's $100 a month. Do I choose this guy over here? He's, $50 a week, right? So that's, $200 plus a month. Gosh, I don't want to spend more than $100. I don't want to spend any more than I have to, right? But this guy over here that is, $50 a week, he has a specific formula, a plan, if you will, a step-by-step plan on keeping your grass green. He's outlined it. He's detailed it. He shows you exactly how this is going to happen, how the application process works, what they need to pay attention to as it relates to weather and time of year and temperature outside, what components they're going to use, the mix between nitrogen and, so on and so forth, how often they're going to mow, and that it isn't just about mowing on a regular basis, that it has to do with the direction that you drive, the lawnmower, and you want to change that up each way, and you make sure that you don't want to do this, right? He's got this entire step-by-step plan on how he's going to keep your grass the greenest. This guy over here is just like, yeah, I can mow your lawn once a week. But if you're really concerned about having a green lawn, like if you're going to hire a landscaper, if you're going to hire a lawn maintenance, which is really what we're talking about here in this example, is more maintenance than we are specific landscaping. Landscaping applies too, though, from a design standpoint. But if you're hiring someone to take care of your lawn, you want them to keep it green, keep it looking good, make it be the best on the block, right? And so you may be more inclined to go with somebody that has a really detailed outline, a step-by-step plan on how they're going to accomplish this, right? Does that make sense? It creates authority. It creates a level of like, wow, these guys don't just mow the lawn. They know what they're doing. Like, yeah, they're a little bit more expensive, but these guys are experienced. Okay, can you see how that can work? Another example might be us, Cascade Conversion. The agency, we've got a step-by-step plan on how to drive new student enrollments to your business every single week, every single month, to do it predictably, to do it, consistently. And we've got a step-by-step plan to do that. Now, why would you choose us versus somebody else? Because we're more expensive than everybody else. Why would you choose us? Because I can walk you through why it's going to work and how it's going to work and show you step by step how I'm going to drive more students to your business. Okay, so that would be creating authority and creating a reason for you to follow us, to hire us versus another agency, versus you doing it on your own, is because I've got the roadmap. I know exactly how to do this. I do it for kid activity centers all over the country. And ultimately, I can guarantee that it's going to be better than if you did it on your own, right? That's worth something to some people, right? Might not be worth anything to you, but to some people, that's worth something, right? I've got this map. I've got this step-by-step plan that's going to ensure more student enrollments for you. So do you see how having a step-by-step plan as it relates to your core service, your core offering, can create a sense of compelling them to do business with you, because they can see how they can reach their objective, reach their goal faster. They can be better when they get to their goal. Like, there's a lot of different ways that you can approach that, but a step-by-step plan is one way to amplify your authority. Another one, they have specific answers. Okay, so this is different than a plan. Okay, this is more about customer service. Okay. So what we're answering here is, what are 10 to 20 ultra specific questions your customers are asking that you can answer? Okay, so some examples of this might be real estate. Okay, if you are a real estate agent, likely there is a subset of questions that a buyer is going to need to know, that they're going to want to understand, that they're going to want to know, gosh, how do the transactions work, and how does an inspection work, and how does all these different pieces work? How does lending come together with making an offer, and do I need to have this in place first, or can you see, like, and if you've bought a house, maybe you know all these things already. But if you're a first-time buyer, it can be a little intimidating, right? So if you had a blog, if you had a podcast, if you had if you had even, just a Q&A section, an FAQ section on your website that outlined the most common questions that get addressed during a real estate transaction, and not just answered it, but provided resources and details and learnings, provided a way to get all of these like friction pieces in the actual transaction ironed out, it creates a sense of authority. It creates wow, these guys know what they're doing. They have all the answers that are relevant to me, right? So another example might be investing, right? This is another one where people lean on a guide, right? In a real estate transaction, you lean on the agent. In investing, you lean on a broker for information. But part of that is, do they have the answers, right? When I ask them, hey, what's the expected return on this mutual fund? Or what's the difference between an IRA and a Roth IRA? Or, there's all these different ways that investing goes. So I'm not going to give a bunch of examples. But if you are an investment podcast and you have all of these answers, you're creating authority, right? You're creating a community of people that believe you are the solution if they're ready to move forward and invest. Okay? So having all the answers, and you don't even have to have all the answers, right? Because who really has all the answers? But having the answers to 10 or 20 of the most common ultra-specific questions that people have as it relates to your industry creates buy-in, creates authority and a belief that you're the person, that you're the firm, that you're the agency, that you're the gym, that you're the dance studio that's going to have the information to get me where I need to go. Okay? So they have specific answers, right? So we talked about they have a plan, they have specific answers. The next one is they maintain absolutes. Okay? So this is about the language that you use. Okay? For example, this is using words in your marketing, in your communication, in your emails, on the phone, words that are like, that fit into the category of absolutes. So this is all, none, always, now, never, period, guaranteed, I promise, going to happen, fact, evil, dumb, stupid, genius, best, greatest, worst, one thing, everything, nothing, everyone, no one, right? Very definitive language as it relates to the topic of discussion. So in an example like this, as a parent, you create authority by, using words like never chase a ball into the street, right? That's an absolute, that you never chase that ball into the street. Now there's a consequence if you do, right? You never chase a ball into a street. Something that relates to kids' activity centers, right? This might be all athletic movement is rooted in gymnastics, right? That's maintaining an absolute. Not some, not most, all. All movement is rooted in gymnastics, okay? And I made that one up, but maybe that's one of the absolutes that you can hold on to, right? Another one is learning to dance always improves social skills. I don't know if it does or not, but you can see how maintaining absolutes creates an environment where you're coming across that there's no other solutions. There's no other answers. If you're going to be a part of our community, this is also a belief that you need to have, right? This is going to facilitate your goal. This creates an environment of like, I don't know if they're right, but they're certain, right? And it compels, again, it creates, again, I'm going to say this again, but it creates authority. When you use absolute language, it creates this impression that you're certain about what it is that you believe. And when you're certain, people follow that. People like certainty, and they follow that. Okay, so maintaining absolutes would be another one that you could do. A fourth one, core beliefs. Okay, now this is different than core values. Okay, core values are how you behave. Okay, we talked about that in the last episode. Core beliefs is different. This is about attracting like people and being okay with not attracting the wrong people. Okay? So again, this kind of comes back to your vision a little bit. So what do you fundamentally believe to be true about the universe and your company's place in it? Okay? So it's kind of in that category. But here's a few examples that just I thought of off the top of my head that could relate to kids' activity centers. And I'm sure that you can think of more, but this might just give you a little bit of a direction, okay? So this is going to be, and I think with core beliefs, they're all going to start with kind of a we believe type mantra. We believe this, right? And this could be things that go on your wall. This could be something that you create a video for. This could be in a welcome packet. This could be, okay? This could be in a number of different ways. This just could be the way you carry yourself and communicate about different things that happen as you're doing customer service. So this could be things like, we believe screens are not a babysitter. Okay? We believe that one good coach can alter the course of a child. We believe that functional movement is the foundation to all active pursuits. Okay? What you're doing is you're creating a set of beliefs that people can buy into. It's different than how you behave. This is essentially you're saying, if you believe these things, you're my people, right? If you believe these things, you're a part of our family. You're a part of our community. You're the ones that we want. Conversely, if you don't believe these things, we're probably not a good fit for you. Like if you're happy putting your phone in front of your child for, a couple hours so that you can have some peace and quiet, we may not be the best fit. Okay? And I'm not saying right or wrong to any of this stuff. I'm just saying what it is it's creating who you are. It's creating the environment, the belief system of who you embody. Okay? We believe this. And so you can go through and you can create all these different things that are what you believe as an organization that attract people and conversely repel, right? Keep the wrong people out of here. Okay? So core beliefs. The last one that we're going to talk about is rites and rituals. Okay? And this category is, how do you mark your association with a given group? Okay, how do you mark your association with a given group? What customs and rituals should you promote and institutionalize within your community of believers? So let me give you a couple of examples here. There's three different options of ways that you can create rites and rituals within your organization. Okay, option one is to get them to do something they would ordinarily never do. Right? So this is like a stretch. This is like maybe moving them beyond their comfort zone. This is something that's just outside the realm of their normal day-to-day, but that creates a community and a family because this is what we all do. An example of this might be the ice bucket challenge. Do you remember that? Gosh, this was probably, I don't know what it was, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Time kind of blurs together at some point. But this was definitely a while ago. And they were trying to bring awareness to, gosh, I'm embarrassed. I don't even remember what the category was. It was so while ago. But it was some sort of, I believe it was some sort of disease awareness that they wanted to bring awareness to a specific, it was like multiple sclerosis or something like that. And forgive me if that's an important thing to you, the category that it either represented or whatever it is, I'm not remembering. But remember what everybody did. They all created these videos of them picking up a bucket full of ice water and dumping it over their head, right? And it wasn't just the act of dumping it over their head. It was also the act of creating a video, right? Posting it on social media, and then nominating other people to do the same thing, if you remember. So this is a ritual that made you a part of that community. It made you a part of bringing awareness to this particular cause. And it was a process in which if you wanted to be a part of this community, if you wanted to bring awareness, you had to do these steps, right? And then their nomination was, hey, you need to get a bucket of ice water. You need to dump it over your head. You need to post your picture, your video on social media, and then you need to nominate, right? So it was this ritual that they used to create a bit of buy-in, a bit of community, a bit of a part of family. Like, this is what we all do, okay? So maybe you could do something in your category that is something that they wouldn't normally do, wouldn't ordinarily do. But if you want to be a part of our family, this is what we do. And it creates loyalty. It creates oh my gosh, I'm one of you, okay? And option number 2 would be you get them to alter an existing routine. So you see this a lot in religious circles, right? Altering your normal routine. You go to church on Sunday. You go to youth group on Wednesday. You always pray before a meal. You pray in the morning. You read spiritual texts in the evening before you go to bed, right? Whatever this might be, you see this a lot in the religious circles of changing your normal routine. And if you want to be a part of this community, you always go to church on Sunday. You always go to church on Saturday, right? You always keep the Sabbath holy, whatever that looks like for a particular organization. And each organization, each religion has a different set of rituals that go along with your particular organization, right? It's a different time of day. It's a different day of the week. It's a different amount. You got to pray for 1 hour, right? You've got to read for 1 hour. Like it's different for your particular organization, and you need to do some of these things if you want to be a part of this religion. So you see it real common there. But this can apply to what you're doing as well, altering your existing routines. You just have to look through the lens of what does this look like for you? Option number 3, and this is kind of a silly one, at least in terms of the way we're going to describe it. It'll make sense though. Option number 3 is you get them to lick your brand. Lick, L-I-C-K. You get them to lick their brand. Now, I know that sounds really weird, but picture this, right? You got kids, and kids commonly, when there is a something that they want, if let's say it's cookies, right? If there's a plate of cookies, they pick up a cookie and lick it. This one's mine. In other words, nobody takes it. I'm taking ownership of this. If I lick this cookie, no one else will want it. Right? You've seen that. You maybe have done that when you were little. Shoot, I may do that right now with my kids to make sure that they don't eat the last cookie. They look at it, that's gross, right? But that's the action that takes place, to get them to buy in. But what does this actually look like when we're talking about relating it to a brand? So this could be like stickers. Like everybody that is in our community, takes their sticker and puts it on their bumper, right? Puts it on their window. Maybe it's a t-shirt, right? Everybody, wears this t-shirt when they come to, when they go to school, or, maybe it's uniforms, or maybe it's social posts. Like they have to create a review for your business after they've been there for 6 months, or I'm making stuff up as I go, but you can kind of see how you could create different practices, different rituals, different rites that would create a sense of loyalty, that would create a sense of ownership in your community by taking this particular action. Okay. And so that is another way that you can create authority, is by having rites and rituals around your particular brand. All right. So here's how this works. If you do one of these, so depending on what's going on in your competitive landscape as it relates to your particular niche, your particular activity, one done exceptionally well can be enough sometimes. Okay. Sometimes. Not always, but sometimes one done exceptionally well is enough. Do 2 and you'll dominate less competitive markets, okay? So if you do 2 of these when there's not a lot of competition, that's going to be enough to create people, to create the community that people are compelled to participate in, okay? Do 3, and category domination is imminent. You will dominate your particular category within your city if you have 3 of these. Do 3, and category domination is imminent. Do 4, and you'll start a movement. 4 of these, and people are like, who are these people? These guys are everywhere. They have a tribe, this community. They have all these answers, and they have this step-by-step plan, and they're maintaining all of these absolutes of like what they believe, and they've got these rights and right. You can see how if you stacked these together, now you're not just dabbling in authority. You're firmly planting your flag that we are the one to come to if this is what you're wanting to do. Do all 5, which rarely happens. Do all 5, and you pretty much own the world for that particular space. You don't see very many brands do all 5. 1, because it's not necessary. 2, because it's a lot of work, to be honest. But you see this a lot when it comes to religions. We're going to tie this back into religion because they do all 5, right? If you think about this, they have a plan, right? They have a plan for salvation, for getting to heaven, right? They maintain specific answers. You can only do this. You can't do this. They have absolutes. Never do this. You must do this. They have core beliefs. We believe this. They have rites and rituals, right? You see that a lot in the religious areas, and consequently, they create movements around them, okay? Because they've done all these different things. Here's what I want you to do, though. Here's now it's your turn, okay? So here's what you're going to want to do. Pick 3. Pick 3 and start to define what some of these elements are. What are we going to do? What rites and rituals are we going to institutionalize? What core beliefs are we going to maintain and promote and preach and make decisions from? What absolutes are we going to stick to? What answers are people always asking that would position us as authority? What plan do we have to get that person to the Olympics? Or, if it's swimming, what plan do we have to make sure that they become, comfortable in the water and so whatever it might be, right? But pick 3 of these and start to define how it is that you guys are going to create authority within your brand, within your community, and hopefully within your city. That is how you create authority. That is how you amplify authority. You have a plan, you have specific answers, you maintain absolutes, you have core beliefs, and you have rites and rituals. Again, you don't have to have all 5, but pick 3 of them and get started documenting what it is that you guys are going to do. Next episode, we're going to be talking about codifying your brand's voice. And that's a fancy word for, defined. What is your brand's voice? We're going to define it, creating a cohesive unit that everybody operates the same way, that it's organized, that it's process driven from a voice standpoint, so that we all, like if they're dealing with this front desk person versus this front desk person, this person that answers the phone, this coach versus this coach, that we all have the same. We're not robots, we're our own individual people, but as it relates to our time at this business, this is kind of how we talk. This is how we respond to emails. This is the voice that we have on the phone. This is the enthusiasm we carry on the floor, on the mats. We're going to talk about voice and how we carry that through emails and text and person and all those different things. So thanks for joining us today. This is part 2 of developing a brand. Hopefully you found some value there, and I look forward to talking to you guys next week. Have a great one.